good? He's Shellitronnn here. You can call me Shells, and I'm back again with a brand new video. And I'm going to keep it a Bowberry biscuit. I have a lot to say about the Panthers draft strategy in round 2 of the NFL draft, and I'm not quite so sure how much of it is going to be popular. Now, before I get into the player that was picked, I want to speak on draft philosophy and how you should be looking at the draft when thinking about your team composition. Now, first off, before going into actually the draft philosophy, let's talk about what the Panthers actually did before they selected a player. We're sitting here pretty with the 39th pick in the draft. Now, we already got a cornerback in the first round. We need a number 1 corner. Now you need to look at what your second biggest need is. You're at pick 39. You saw a decent run of O-linemen go in the first round. I believe it was 4 tackles that went in the first round. And you understand that you do need tackles. You're sitting at 39, and the Panthers decide to go ahead and trade down 13 spots with the Bears. Now, we give up pick 39 and 151, which is a 5th round pick. And the Bears give us pick 52, which is their 2nd round pick. And we get pick 83, which is a 3rd round pick. And we get pick 204, which is a 6th round pick. And that's cool, right? Okay, we go down 13 spots. Now we have pick number 52. But once pick 52 rolls around, we trade down once more with the Bears. We give up 52 and 113, which is a 4th round pick. And then we get 59, which is 7 spots back. And we get 89, which is an additional 3rd round pick. Now we have 3 thirds and a very late 2nd round pick. No 4th round pick, but still with 3 thirds, you value that a little bit more, maybe even a lot more than a 4th round pick. Although this is a pretty deep draft in several spots, you can find some very good value in the 3rd and the 4th round. But there's a difference between finding good value in the 3rd round and saying, hey, these are good 3rd round value picks, and finding starters at positions that you need to have for this upcoming season. You might find, let's say, an O-lineman in the 3rd round. But how many starting day 1 O-linemen are there going to be in the 3rd round? Especially when you trade out of pick 39 and there is a run on very good O-linemen. At 39, the Bears traded up and got Tevin Jenkins. That was a good pick. Then we see Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame, who's a left tackle, might have to swing to right tackle, but he's a day 1 pick. You have a guy like Walker Little who goes. You have a guy like Dylan Radins who comes off the board. A guy like Sam Cosmi who comes off the board. There were several dudes that the Panthers could have used this season, this upcoming season, with a much bigger area of need that needs to be addressed now. That came off the board because we traded back and then traded back once more. And what did we decide to do with the 59th overall pick in the NFL draft? We got Terrace Marshall Jr., a wide receiver. Now look, I understand. Curtis Samuel's gone. So the mindset is, whoa, Curtis is gone. We have to fill that hole right now. We need to fill that hole right now. Never mind that we got David Moore, right? We need Terrace Marshall in the 2nd round to be our 4th receiving option. We have DJ, we have Robbie, and Christian McCaffrey is going to be one of the top 3 receiving threats on the team, regardless. So Terrace Marshall is going to be the 4th at best. You tell me just how desperate this team really was in need of a wide receiver this year. I understand that Curtis Samuel left. And I understand that DJ Moore only has his 5th year option picked up and that Robbie Anderson is on the last year of his deal. We have C-Mac for a long time, but I'm very confused. Was the need for a wide receiver so high that you go and pick one up in the 2nd round of the draft? I like Terrace Marshall. I think he's a good player. I think he has a chance to be an explosive player. And he was kind of under the radar a bit because he was the 3rd wheel to that explosive LSU offense. And we know what that LSU offense was it was something else, right? It was real nutty. But that still doesn't answer the question as to how much did the Panthers need an additional wide receiver in the 2nd round for this year? Was your 4th option in the passing game this year more important than finding a starter on the offensive line? This selection to me tells me the Panthers have 100% confidence in Dennis Daly, Greg Little, Pat Elflein and Cam Irving on the offensive line.
Hell no, to the no, 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 hell to the no.
Because you've already decided that getting an additional wide receiver for the future is more important than, you're saying that these guys they're good enough to be the starters on your O-line, and Sammy D will have no problem operating behind this offensive line. You say, look, Sammy D needs more weapons more than he needs protection. But who is Terrace Marshall Jr.? Terrace Marshall Jr., like I said earlier, is a very explosive wide receiver. He's 6'2", he's a big body dude, and he has some very, very great stats. Now, he was playing behind two of the best wide receivers in the game over the past couple years. You know about WR Terrace and all them boys from LSU. But look at his stats right here. You can see, even 2 years ago, he had almost 700 yards, 13 touchdowns as a receiver. Just this past season, he had 731 yards on 48 receptions, and he had 10 touchdowns. The guy's explosive. He has all the tools, but there's a big question about his focus. There was plenty of times in games where you see him going half speed on his routes. There was plenty of times in games where you saw him drop passes, just focus passes, looking upfield for the ball comes in his hand and dropping easy passes. Easy passes. There was times you saw him not going 100%. And maybe it's because you're on LSU. Maybe it's because there was greatness, and right now it ain't the same kind of thing. I'm not quite sure why it is. But you use a second-round pick on a position that is not really of great need right now, and pick up a player where there is focus issues on. It's not an issue with his footwork. It's not an issue with his form. It is an effort question. That is pretty huge to use in the second round. Now, there is the fact that we do have Joe Brady, and that connection there from LSU might help. And I think it will help. I think Joe Brady being here with Terrace Marshall will help. He has a connection. You can say, hey, look, bro, we need a little something else. Look, I know what's going on. I need you to give that effort. I need you to focus at all times. And that sounds good, right? But once again, we're forgetting a very, very important detail. How long do you believe that Joe Brady will be wearing black and blue as the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers? We saw after his first year, there were plenty of teams looking to pick him up. He was interviewing for head coaching jobs last year. Do you really believe Joe Brady is going to be the offensive coordinator for more than one season of Terrace Marshall being on the Panthers? I don't. That's the reason why I think we got Sean Ryan as our QB coach. I think Joe Brady's gone after this upcoming year, and it's going to be Sean Ryan who's the new offensive coordinator. So that begs the question, how much can you really bank on that 1 year connection with Joe Brady and Terrace Marshall? Does it even matter? This one season, this is only going to be one season of Joe Brady and Terrace Marshall. And it also begs the question, once again, how important was it to get your fourth option as a receiving threat for this season as opposed to potentially a starting O-lineman? So for me, I got to say, the player himself isn't bad. And this is really good value second round. But you have to value what you need. Only going for best player available at all times in the draft and ignoring O-line? How about this? If you're okay with going cornerback in the first and going wide receiver in the second, then that's cool. I just do not need to see one time this season you ever complain about O-line play. If you're okay with going cornerback and then wide receiver, 1 and 2 in this draft, never speak on how the O-line plays. Never speak on how Sammy D looks with protection. Never speak on if C-Mac, for some reason, does not get the rush yards he really needs. Never speak on if these receivers don't have enough time to develop in their routes and get open. Never speak on that. Talk about the defense getting interceptions. Talk about Terrace Marshall getting yards when he can. You automatically disqualify yourself from ever speaking on protection for the quarterback position. Now, this has been a problem for a few years now, right? And when I say a few years, I mean several years. When I say several years, I mean upwards of decades, honestly. Having solid O-line play consistently has almost never been a thing for the Panthers. We get weapons here and there. We get good players in the secondary here and there. We've always had good production in several places. but the O-line has consistently been a huge area of need. So, I'll say this. If you are cool with getting Terrace Marshall as the fourth option in the receiving game this season, never complain about protection in this year. Never complain about the offensive line. For me, I grade this as an F. I think that trading down multiple times and missing out on multiple starting offensive linemen and then picking up a wide receiver in the second round is an F. It's an F. And this isn't about him being a bad receiver. He's going to be a good receiver. I think he's going to be a good receiver. But I think refusing to address the biggest area of need on your team, refusing to address that when you pick up Sam Darnold's fifth-year option and understanding how much of a problem the O-line's been for this team historically is an F move that really cannot be defended at all. At all. Like, this is the last year you can get a receiver. There's going to be no receivers in next year's draft. No receivers you can pick up in free agency next season. I don't know, bro. I guess you have to go ahead and lock up your receiver for the future this year when you already have 3 legitimate receivers and you still have David Moore. I don't know. I don't hate Terrace Marshall, the player. I hate what the Panthers did in the draft. He's going to be a good player. He's going to be a good player. I don't like that we are pushing O-line to the third round. Simple as that. Simple as that. You missed out on several starters on the O-line to get a receiver, a position that was not in need at all. Like, at all. Not at all. Not at all for this year at all. So, it is what it is. I grade this an F because you needed other things more than you needed a wide receiver. And don't talk about BPA because BPA is not important when you have no O-line to speak of. Now, if you believe in Pat Elflein, Cam Irving, Greg Little, and Dennis Staley, then tell me in the comments below. Let me know. Let me know. How do you feel about this draft, this pick, and if you have confidence in the guys on the O-line right now for 17 games straight? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below, and you already know what to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Been told y'all I been the man. Been told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.